Hey everybody. Welcome to the Extra Credits All-Star Shows. Lisa here, and I'm here with Dean Mannix today. Welcome, Dean.
Good morning.
Good morning.
From Australia, it's good morning anyway.
It is. It's 4:30 in the morning your time, correct?
Correct.
Well, we were just talking about this, that I'm so excited to be with somebody who actually gets up really early in the morning, because I get up every morning inspired to help people to want to learn. So let's talk about some learning opportunities and some of the things about yourself. So let's find a little bit more about you, Dean. Tell me a little bit more about you and what you do.
Yeah, sure. So SalesITV, Sales ROI and DeanMannix.com are all focused around fundamentally helping salespeople and customer service people be more effective in their interactions. We're super passionate about the salesperson on the front line, because I got into sales not knowing anything, being incredibly scared, being really down and out in terms of where I was at the point in time, and it really changed a lot of things for me. And I was very, very lucky because I was amongst a bunch of people that were committed to professionalism, and I had a mentor that trained the hell out of me when I first started. And so many salespeople don't get that, and so that's what we're all about. And it's been a pretty amazing ride over the last 20 years.
Awesome. And so, you talk a lot about sales life. So what does a better sales life look like?
Yeah, well, probably the best place to start on that is, what does a normal sales life look like? And a normal sales life is terrible. Like, it's horrible. The stats are horrific. Only 53% of people in sales will be on budget this year, and that's down from 64% 10 years ago. So we're getting all this technology, we're getting all of this hype around, sales is now dead, or it's all sorted out by technology, but the statistics are saying actually it's terrible. So you think about that, 47% of salespeople walking to work on a Monday off budget, knowing they have to meet their boss, knowing that there's probably some leaderboard up on the wall, and not having the skills to beat it. 1 in 20 people in a sales team will be getting 10 times more objections than the best salesperson, despite the fact that they're selling the same product at the same price to the same market, because they haven't been taught how to sell properly. Commission. 91% of commissions are going to less than 13% of salespeople. So that means you've got 87% of salespeople squabbling over 9% of the commission paid in the market. So the average sales life is absolutely terrible. And then that's at the core of our why. It's to leave a salesperson in a state of average is cruel and unusual punishment. So better sales life is about, you become better at sales, you have a better life, and we talk about the 6 aspects of your life, and all of those can be radically improved by getting this thing called sales handled.
Well, and I think too, there's a perception that a salesperson, but what people I think don't fail to realize is that everybody is in sales. Everybody. If you're a woman trying to sell your kid and going to bed early, if you're a certified financial planner and you're trying to sell, your client on your products and services, whether you're a CPA and you're trying to tell, your client about their financial numbers, everything is all about sales. And I think there's a big misperception of what is a salesperson. And they think of, car sales and, retail and whatever. But everybody is in sales. Would you not agree?
Oh, absolutely. Look, so there's 2 aspects to that. One is everybody is in sales, and power in your life, the amount of power that you have in life, period, is defined by your ability to influence others to help you with your outcomes.
Yeah.
And your sales skills and your influence skills, used ethically, can create an amazing life that enables you to sleep really well at night, knowing that you're achieving a lot and that you're achieving it in an ethical way. Those who can't sell, those who can't influence, they lead miserable lives no matter what their job title is.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is, we're all selling. And the funny thing is, we're born with amazing sales abilities.
Yeah.
You think about children from the age of around about 2 through to 20, they're fantastic at selling. Just look at parent-child interactions.
Yeah.
But over time, you're right, that perception of what a salesperson is causes us to not want to be in sales. You see, this is a really scary thing. When I ask the majority of salespeople all over the world, and I've done this in over 25 countries, what comes to mind when you think of a salesman, and I use the man word deliberately because it's I guess it's got worse connotations. Most people who are in sales come up with dodgy, sleazy, pushy, aggressive, self-centered, and none of us want to be that sort of person. So even people in sales don't want to be salespeople.
Yeah.
And once again, that's why 13% are taking home 91% of the rewards, because they're embracing it and they're redefining what sales is compared to the average human being.
And I think there needs to be as well, people need to realize that in sales, in anything in life, truly, when you are genuinely compassionate about what you do, the sale will come. There's never an objection. And I always say in a sale, somebody will say, well, I'm not interested right now for whatever objection reason that they might have. And a no is always just a not yet. And I think, people have to become accustomed to the fact that when you're serving your clients or you're serving your prospects, that you're really valuing what they need first, and then you're delivering on that. And part of your job as a salesperson is to find out what that really is that they're looking for and scripting it accordingly.
Yeah, look, you've got to invest, right? You can't, it's a universal law. You can't be incredibly fit unless you invest over long term in your fitness. You can't have an amazing relationship unless you invest long term in that relationship. Yeah. And so why should sales be any different? But the thing about sales is, if you work your bottom off and you prospect and you prospect and you prospect, you get lucky enough often that you meet someone with an immediate need for your solution. But the reality is, you've got to be running around planting lots and lots and lots of seeds so that eventually you can harvest them. So it doesn't just happen overnight. And the great salespeople know that, and they work to that, and they know that they have to do the numbers, because in the short term, it's luck. It's not great influence. It's often sleazy influence to try and flog a product rather than help a person. So,
Dean, tell us. You get a lot of no's before you get a yes. So, what is the number one biggest failure? Like the Taj Mahal of the, oh my God, I screwed up. What was the number one that you did in your career?
Well, okay, so in sales, it's never a Taj Mahal. It's actually brick by brick you fail to put in all of the, you just fail to do all the little things, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, the plumbing's leaking, the roof's falling down, it's really cold in here because we didn't seal the roof.
That has nothing to do with sales.
It's lots and lots of little failures rather than one big failure. But for me, oh wow, so many. Every single major failure has been linked to too much arrogance and a lack of preparation. So, no matter how good you are, no matter how fantastic you think you are, winging it is a recipe for disaster. Yeah. So it's always come down to a massive lack of preparation. And I've lost, literally 7-figure deals. And when I'm talking about a 7-figure deal, I'm talking about a deal that we would earn 7 figures on, not, a $1 million sale. Because of a lack of preparation. And the other big thing is a lack of stakeholder coverage. So the bigger the sale, so when you're selling to major enterprises, yeah. I think a lot of people are overly reliant on one key stakeholder who really likes them, and they don't do the work and expand their network. And so, there's some pretty cataclysmic failures, but they're all because of lots of little failures.
That's great that you know what you failed at, because that's part of the solution, is figuring out what did I fail at. Now, how do I take advantage of that failure? How do I fuel my failure into a success? And so, that's learning. That's, taking control of what's the next step. What do I have to learn so that I don't make that same mistake again? And obviously, you're extremely successful. So you've made that decision to learn so that you don't make that mistake again. So what did that path look like for you?
Yeah, so I think the big thing there, Lisa, is you've got to have a framework for reflecting on what those failures were, so you know what to improve. Yeah. And I talk a lot about the importance of structures and frameworks. And I'm an ex-McDonald's kid, so I'm a huge believer in systems and process. And I'm an ex-lawyer, so I'm a huge believer in basically a good solid structure so that you can analyse a situation and figure out where the gaps are. Yeah. And I think the thing that a lot of salespeople are missing is frameworks and tools so that they can look at that outbound call and go, okay, which of the 6 areas of that outbound call did I fail in? What do I know is best practice? What's the gap between what I did in that call and what I could have done in that call? The ability to actually reflect honestly, and then the opportunity to have someone to observe that they respect to give them feedback. So a huge aspect for me in terms of constant improvement is making sure that you have those frameworks so you can chunk it down into those small pieces and ask yourself, did I do that part of the sale effectively? What worked, what didn't? And creating that reflective time, right?
Yeah.
Something I'm talking a lot about is the Harvard research around just enabling people or forcing people to reflect can get a 23 to 25% improvement in any skill if we can just get them to stop and think about it now. But none of us are reflecting anymore. We come out of a meeting, we go straight to our phone.
Yeah.
You know, we're onto fantasy football, or we're onto Facebook, or we're onto LinkedIn, and we don't stop to think about our performance. So for me, the big thing in terms of learning for salespeople is slow down, use structures, and that'll help you go faster and faster and faster. But most of us are just so busy moving on to the next call, the next call, the next call, and not thinking about how to become better.
Yeah, absolutely. And so some of the training, because you have training courses available, is part of that framework that you're talking about, right? That process. You have got courses where people can come and find you and take those courses with you, correct?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So we've actually put our sales methodology down as free sales training. So the world can access our free sales training. And it's a 9-step methodology that really breaks down every single thing you need to do to be excellent in a sales situation from the customer's perspective.
Excellent.
Right? So many sales methodologies are all about flogging a product and your outcome as opposed to really working with the customer to help them buy. And our whole system is built around frameworks and tools. And then how-to strategies. I don't know about you, Lisa, but something that frustrates me a lot with learning is so much of it's just talking at people and telling them what they need to do and telling them to figure out how to do it instead of saying, you know, this is how you do it. This is the words, or these are the best scripts. These are the best times. This is the best tonality. Just really getting into the nitty-gritty. And that's because so many people who are teaching are not actually experts.
You know, that's a perfect, you know what? Great point is that so many people teach, but they don't do. And so they can't apply what they're teaching. Therefore, they can't get granular in their teaching so that, you know, it's very high level, you know, way in the clouds. And it's great if you didn't know that those were some of the concepts. But how do you actually apply those concepts is so important, because if you don't know how to apply it to your business or to your profession or, you know, whatever you happen to be challenged with, then what's the point?
Exactly. That's why so much training now is either destructive, as in people come out of the room going, I learnt nothing, and that trainer didn't have credibility, or just as bad, it's just entertainment. So many trainers have gone the way of, well, I've got to be entertaining so that I can fill up a whole day or 2 days, and everyone gets the buzz and they get the sugar hit, but they come out and they go, well, how do I apply that now? And it's all over. So I'm huge on the how-to, and I'm huge on giving people exercises that they can put into practice in live sales situations when they leave the room or when they leave the video content, to make sure that basically everything we're doing is immediately translating into better results.
Excellent, because it has to be results driven, because otherwise you're wasting everybody's time. And in today's day, we're very busy people. And so, you know, our time is as extremely valuable as the invoicing that we do outside of, right? So I think, you know, that's really important. And accountability too. I think being able to, you know, it's one thing to learn it. It's another thing to apply it. But then it's to be accountable to the results of what's happening as well is vitally important.
Absolutely. And the thing is, you know, so many of my big enterprise clients over the years have blamed their managers and said, well, the managers should have coached that training that we did better. Now, the scary thing is often the manager didn't go on the training. So that creates a bit of a gap to start with. And the second thing is it's often not the manager's fault, because the trainer didn't provide the manager with really easy how-to strategies for helping their people put the content into practice. And closing that gap's critical. You know, we talk about the 70-20-10, and I'm a huge believer that, you know, we know that 70% of the learning process is the doing, getting feedback, reflecting, having observation, all those things that are real and tangible. And yet most training is built around the 10%, which is the skills that want to be transferred. And even that 10% is often the what, not the how. So it's no wonder a lot of people don't get excited when they're open to training.
Exactly.
And so we do our very best to close that gap.
Well, it really is.
A little bit.
You know, I laugh because I wake up every single morning wanting people to inspire people to want to learn rather than they have to learn. And I think that's so important. You know, you talked a little bit. Now, this I didn't know about you. You were a lawyer. So how did you get from being lawyer, you're selling all day long. Like, that's a definite, I can see where the marriage is there. But how did you leave the legal industry to start your brand, your business? Like, how did that all come about?
Yeah, for sure. So, and as a lawyer, I wasn't really selling. I was just crushing things. I was a litigation lawyer. I was a very angry little man. I was a little bit too good at it.
Well, I've met you in person, and I wouldn't have thought that you were an angry little man. But anyways.
Yeah. I woke up one morning and sort of realized, wow, this is real. We're actually, there's real people on the other side of these transactions. Yeah. And I knew that it wasn't for me. And so I ended up working for a property development company. Okay. I bought them out with a financial partner, and we built childcare centres all over. And this is going to come to training, but we built childcare centres because I'm incredibly passionate about education and always have been. That business partner and I had a massive falling out, like a massive, and a big legal battle. He was a very wealthy guy because he was a guy. I know. Well, no, you didn't need a lawyer. The last thing you needed was a lawyer because the angry little lawyer in me had a massive fight instead of communicating his way through it and really working it out. And it turned into a destruction fest. Instead of let's sort this out. So I went from having no money as a kid to having a lot of money in this childcare venture, and then to blowing all of it and more up. And I was really, I was mentally, emotionally, physically and financially just going downhill really fast. Yeah. And a friend of mine said, I said, look, I'm just about broke. I don't want to go bankrupt. I'm going to find my way out of this. And he said, you should sell photocopiers. And I said, you don't know how much debt I'm in. He said, you don't know how much money you can earn.
A lot of photocopiers.
So I got an interview with the sales manager. Yeah. And I'll never forget, I went out to his place, and his place was about 15 miles out of the capital city I was in. Yeah. And it was on this big sprawling plot with a tennis court and horses and everything else. And it was 11 a.m. in the morning, and he was sitting out by the tennis court in the sun drinking a glass of Chardonnay. And so I walked over and I was like, this is an interesting job interview. Yeah. And anyway, he gave me a shot. Wow. And so in the first couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, I was pounding the pavement, walking into buildings, of total strangers, getting business cards, asking to speak to managers. And I remember walking out of the building just going, how did my life come to this? How on earth have I ended up in sales? Like, what has happened? And I realized that I had to either embrace it or get out of it. And I'm a pretty tenacious kind of guy. And I had a lot of reasons to sell that were very self-centered at the time.
Wow, you had bills to pay.
Yeah, I just did what it took, right? And I absolutely committed, and I went for it, and we had a pretty brutal regime early on, and I embraced it. And I was so lucky that there was a general manager called Pete McCluskey, and I talk about him in some of my videos, who was just hell-bent on training us in all the skills and taking it down to the minutiae and giving us the how-to. And very, very rapidly I got back on top. So, as I said, I was feeling incredibly lucky to have gotten to sales. So that was how it started. And then in terms of the sales training, well, once I got back on top as part of my charity, I wrote a newsletter, which back in the day, we didn't have the internet, kids. Yeah. We had to, type newsletters out and then print them and then post them out with lick stamps.
You know that little box that actually has a piece of paper in it that you get. You know that's called the mailbox. That one.
Yeah, and I got that out to about 900 people on some motivational topics and thinking and thoughts, and we used to have about 100 people come to an event once a month where I'd pay for the hotel, and we get motivational speakers in to speak to them, and once in a while no one would turn up, as in the speaker wouldn't turn up, and so I became a motivational speaker, and then somebody asked me, would you come do this for our company? And I said, yeah, sure, if you pay me, I'm happy to, and they said, yeah, sure, and I was like, okay, fine. And so that was how it all started.
Wow, that's quite the story. And I mean, I never expected that, from going from a lawyer to almost bankrupt to, I mean, you're extremely successful. So congratulations on, it's a big hurdle to overcome and to be sustainable for all these years. Yeah,
the 20-year Get Rich plan is working out really well.
Yeah. So you obviously learned your lesson. And you have better communication skills now. You know to negotiate with your mouth rather than up here in your craziness.
I still make mistakes, but I'm better at being smarter these days. Better at going back to the frameworks that are trained and realizing where I've made a mistake. And it's funny, I think the funniest thing about putting everything down on video and really documenting your philosophies is often my people will pull me up and say, but didn't you say in that video that you should do it this way? Why are you doing it that way, Dean? And it's like, yeah, you're right. I'm taking a shortcut. Okay, let's go back.
There it goes back to, again, Dean, the accountability. Your people hold you accountable to what you teach, because you do what you teach, and that's really important. We've talked about that.
And repetition. You forget the stuff that really works. And I'm personally a massive fan of repetition, and probably a little bit crazy in that regard. Like if I like something that I listen to or watch, I'll listen to or watch it 15 to 20 times just to lock it in. And I think that's the other thing about sales that I really like to make sure people understand, is that so many people are always looking for that new course or that next advanced technique or that latest fad, but the simple reality is it's the fundamentals, what done well again and again and again, that really help you succeed. And the times at which I've earned and not made, earned the most money, have been the most boring times, where I've just been doing the same thing again and again and again, and tapped you into a really rich source of people that have that need. Yeah. So great sales is not exciting and sexy. The exciting and sexy stuff happens with the money that you earn and the time that you earn and the energy that you earn. But the actual role of sales is meant to be a little bit boring.
So, we talk a lot about, it's interesting that you mention the money that you earn and where is the real gratification. And, I have big aspirations. I don't, aspire to be a multimillionaire. I aspire to be a billionaire. And my aspirations are based on, not because of the money, not because of the tangible things, but I think nowadays, with $1 million and you're making and closing deals with $1 million, doesn't get you very far in life with $1 million. But $1 billion can really be leveraged to help others, to inspire them to want to learn, to be better and pursue their dreams and what have you. But there's always objections along the way when you're trying to reach those big goals. I mean, I have many milestones to that goal, obviously. And so, those objections are something that you face all the time as a salesperson, as a business person. So what would you say, Dean, is the number one objection that people face?
I think it's a personal objection, to be straight up. It's, why should I get up? Why should I make that extra sale? That most people's biggest impediment to selling more is their own objection. It's them telling themselves, no, I've already paid the bills this month. I don't need to go and make that extra call, do that extra thing, help that extra person. So I think the biggest objection is actually the one inside. And that's why you've got to have that goal. You've got to know why you're doing it. You've got to have something that motivates you to do more than pay the bills and to break free of what your current earnings are. I talk a lot about, if you don't know, you won't grow. Yeah. And so as a salesperson, if you don't know what you'd spend the extra $100,000 of earnings this year on, or even $10,000 of earnings, if you don't know what you would spend it on or what difference it's going to make, you won't do the extra effort to make the extra sales. Exactly. And then I think the next biggest objection people that face the most often is the price objection. It's too expensive, or I can buy it cheaper elsewhere. And once again, I think that the major challenge that most salespeople have with handling that objection is they haven't sold themselves on the value of the product or service that they sell. And there's some great research out of Harvard that showed that 67% of salespeople will discount their product before the customer has asked for a discount. So it's crazy, right? And so a lot of people think the key to handling the price objection is some really cheesy, strategy. And often there are plenty of great strategies, and we train strategies for responding. But the starting point is always in here, and really believing in the value that you create with the solution or the service that you sell.
It's interesting. So I just want to take a step back. So you talk about themselves being their biggest objection. And I often think, people have said, oh, Lisa, you're the queen of persistence. You're the queen of follow-up. You always follow up. And I think part of the problem of that whole themselves and their own objection is that they'll make the call, but they never follow up. So they say, oh, big deal. So follow up, do a 1 day, a 3 day, a 5 day, a 9 day, a 30 day. Like, keep following up, because eventually you're going to find a way to serve them.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm quite famous. I'll call someone 8 times in a day, and just keep calling and calling and calling and calling and calling and calling, and then I'll go back the next day again and again and again, because you have to be incredibly tenacious, and you need to close loops.
Yeah.
And every unclosed loop is just eating away at your beliefs about yourself and your beliefs about how serious you are. And you're far better off focusing intensively on 10 to 20 really key prospects than you are shotgunning 200 and hoping that some will stick. And you're absolutely right. It's a skill that most people fail in, and that's why I think CRMs have become so popular.
Yeah.
Because organisations don't have to remind their people to call people and follow up and chase up, but most people have way too long a follow-up time frame.
Yeah,
6 months should often be 6 weeks.
Well, and I think too, people forget, and the other big thing that I believe in my heart is that people forget it is not about you, it's about them. And so, finding out that information, part of my follow-up, I'll find a great article that I know has nothing to do with the sales cycle of learning or continuing education at extra credits, but I know it's of extreme value to the person that I'm trying to have a relationship with. And so I'll shoot them off a quick email and say, hey, I know you're a busy person, but I just came across this. I know this would be of great value to you. Have yourself a nice day. It doesn't have to be about the sale. And I think people forget about that.
Well, it generally shouldn't be about the sale, because that's all about you. It's like, hey, have we got a deal yet? I've got to make budget. Hey, have we got a deal yet? I've got to make budget. And that's why people aren't motivated to follow up, because the reason that they're calling is all about them, and they're not motivated by that reason. So great salespeople do exactly what you just said. They're constantly looking for ways to engage with their prospective clients and everybody inside their pipeline on the basis of, I've got some additional value to bring you. Now, just an hour a week on finding something that would be valuable to most of your prospects is one of the best investments of time you can make, because that's what motivates you to make those 20 follow-up calls.
Yeah.
But most people don't do that 1 hour, and then it takes them 10 hours to get around to making those calls. And when they make them, they go, hi, you wouldn't want to buy yet, would you?
Yeah.
Instead of being on the front foot and saying, hey, just had this great meeting with this client just like you. They told me about this fantastic resource. I thought that might be of use to you. I've just sent a link to you. When can we catch up to talk about that deal? I know that you're not ready now, but what do you think the time frame is? And so it's very much about value first, but then leveraging that value. Because the other side of that, Lisa, is so many people create lots of value and just have it taken and taken and taken and taken and never ask for anything back.
Yeah, true.
So you've got to find that balance.
Yeah, true. We talk a lot about like the salesperson, but let's talk a little bit more about leadership for a moment. And the internal sales of a company is just as important as the external sales and trying to, bring in new clients. And I think from a leadership perspective, a lot of leaders forget that your clients, your internal clients that you already have, there needs to be communication. There needs to be a sales follow-up cycle internally as well, so that they know you are valued. Because let's face it, the cost of acquisition of a new client is a lot more than the client that you currently have. And so you talk a lot about referrals. And so let's talk a little bit more about referrals. And I really believe that the referrals come from the leadership down. And if you teach and inspire your people properly, that you will get those referrals from your group and your team and your clients. And so what is some of the top, what's a referral tip that you could provide us today?
Yeah, for sure. It's the number one activator of referrals, and the number one thing that causes no internal referrals is people don't actually like you. And especially internally. So your colleagues, because you're in the same space, will naturally be pleasant to you and say nice things to you and nod at you a lot.
Yeah.
But the simple reality is, if they don't really like you, they're not going to go out of their way to introduce you to their network. But so many salespeople go, well, we work in the same place, so you should refer me. And it's like, I'm sorry, but if you're not the sort of person that I would refer outside of this place, just because we work in here, in fact, it's more likely that I won't refer you if I don't like you, because we work in the same place. And if you stuff up my relationship, then we're going to be in the same place. It's going to be very uncomfortable. So the fascinating thing is the number one activator is liking. And so many salespeople switch on these amazing liking skills when they walk out of the office, but turn them off as they walk back through the front door. Yeah. And they wonder why people internally don't support them. Well, it's often because they haven't even made that fundamental step, let alone the other steps, which are really helping people understand the problems that they're solving for people outside and motivating internal people to want to introduce them because they feel that problem would be a valuable thing for their friend or their other client to be solved.
Absolutely. And therefore, then they would have a better sales life.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Well, when you're getting lots of referrals, life in sales is great. The thing I talk a lot about, Lisa, is it's not all about money, right? The better sales life is about where you're at emotionally, where you're at mentally, where your relationships are at, where you're at physically, what you do with your time, whether you enjoy that or whether you have to do stuff, your financial power. So it's definitely about your financial power. But, for most human beings, if they doubled their sales, 91% of their problems would go away. And so it's not just about money, but the reality is if most people doubled their sales, 90% of their problems are gone. And so, this stuff matters.
It does. And I think people get complacent. And, you talked a little bit about this before about, they're making just enough money, paying their taxes, they're paying their bills, their mortgage, whatever it happens to be, and they've got some, a slush fund left over that they get to go on a trip once a year, or some of these things. But I think that which is great that that's the accomplishment. But I think people forget that they're not really living to their full potential. And if they would just grit and grind a little harder, they could live up to their full potential, and that's a pretty amazing thing.
Yeah, look, enough is not enough. The reality is, the people that always say, oh, no, I'm earning enough, I'm fine. As soon as they say, well, look, when was the last time that you flew your mother down from Washington to see the grandkids? Yeah. And you were able to put her up in a really nice hotel room, or did she have to kind of squeeze in on the couch? Yeah. Are you honestly, genuinely happy with, the house that you have your family in? Are you genuinely happy with the amount of time you get to take off? So most people actually, they get trapped in this bill cycle, bill paying cycle, and convince themselves that I'm a really good person because I pay my bills and I provide, and we go on that holiday once a year and somehow we'll figure out the money for the college fund and it's all going to be okay. Instead of going, you're right, if I just put in 10% more, I'd probably earn 30 to 40% more. And those are real numbers, it's crazy. Like a 10% improvement in conversion generally generates about a 40% improvement in profitability. Doubling your sales only requires around about a 20% improvement across the 4 areas of, conversion, and bang, you've doubled it. So it's not about massively extra effort, but it starts with admitting that what you're earning right now is not enough and that you need to do better.
Yeah, and I think once you admit that, then the next process really is finding the right education to help you get to that next level, right? The education like we talked about, that's accountable, that applies, has the how-to and the immediate how-to. I mean, that's important as well. So, absolutely, that's a better sales life. That's just a better life in general.
It all starts with the right skills. So we need to put them into practice, but if you know how to target correctly and generate a great lead, if you know how to motivate someone to make a decision faster, if you know how to negotiate that decision so that you earn a fair margin, and if you know how to turn that new customer into a referrer, if you've got those 4 skill sets, you're going to kill it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so often it's just 1 or 2 strategies in each area that can make a profound difference, but it starts with committing to better skills. Yeah. And that's life, right? You need better skills if you want better results.
Well, could you imagine if Warren Buffett didn't, commit to a lifelong learning, path? Like there's, you look at some of the greatest business minds in the world, they are committed. I mean, I know myself, at least an hour a day, every day to something, whether I'm learning a new skill, whether I'm reading, whether I'm listening to a podcast, whatever it happens to be. My grandfather said to me, Lisa, today is a good day. And I'd say to him, well, why, Grandpa? Why is today such a good day? And he'd say, because I learned something new today. You should learn something new every single day. He was a very smart man. So that's my hope, is that whoever's watching this today, that you've learned something new today and that you can apply it immediately. But I am excited to say that, Dean and I are working together right now to bring Dean in as the Extra Credits All-Star into the Extra Credits faculty fold. So, stay tuned to some of those exciting things that are happening. And what's next for you, Dean, besides Extra Credits? What's happening next in your business?
Yeah, look, so deanmannix.com is taking off. And so the transition from pure enterprise clients through to individuals being able to access our content is really exciting for me. DeanMannix.com is a fantastic place where we're giving access to some great training and some insights into what we can do. We put our sales growth blueprint up for free on that site, so deanmannix.com/blueprint. And that's a really great guide for any salesperson to understand the 7 areas they need to build their skills in. And the exciting thing is, in sales, you build skills in one area, you get immediate improvement. And you talked before too, you just use Buffett. Well, Buffett says, compounding, it was all about compounding and year after year after year. You learn one new skill today and you use it for the next 10 years. That one skill could generate millions and millions of dollars. So for me, it's more presenting around the world. It's getting our content into the platform that we both use. It's making sure that people can get credits for it, and we're working on that. And it's just helping more salespeople to be better.
Awesome. Well, I really thank you for the opportunity today, and we'll take care, and we'll see you soon.
You bet. Thanks so much. Happy days from Australia, guys.